Hello, can you hear me? All right, cool. Okay, hey everyone. So I think it's the last session. You need to cheer up because we'll be talking about ransomware, and which is, maybe we like it or not, some one of us have already faced it, and some of our friends or their friends have faced it, and it's always challenging. I was just talking to one of my friends that having faced ransomware twice in my life. It's fun when you finish it successfully, but at the same time, it's pain for the team when you sit round the clock in data centers or at your office fixing the ransomware problem. In my personal life, I have faced multiple times, and what my opinion is like, ransomware is not just like all of a sudden someone is trying to target a company because they have a personal problem with them, but it's kind of ransomware as a service that is running in the dark world. People try to target a company on base of not just the company is famous or they have a lot of money. They see all aspects of a company before targeting it. They see like, do they do insurance about the ransomware or not? They also see like, are they moving to cloud recently, or they are trying to go to AI recently? So there will be loopholes because they are changing from old legacy to modern, because sometimes legacy you put a lot of controls, but when you go to cloud, you try to do a lot of DevOps, SRE, you try to do a lot of AI ops, it tends to lose a lot of loopholes. So with this today's session, we'll be focusing on the strategy and challenges and what, as a C-level exec, you might want to hear from James and Paramate, like what is their strategy and how you take this step forward to secure your system, or define like how can you basically avoid ransomware in the first place, and if it happens, what should you be doing to make sure that you are not stuck in loop of giving money, or you have to make your system or business online. With that, maybe I'll just jump over to the questions. So first question, we'll be focusing on strategic part first. I'd like to ask James, what strategic framework should executives adopt when deciding whether to pay ransom, rely on insurance, or rebuild your system from scratch?
Okay. Thanks everyone for staying for the final session. So I've responded to ransom attacks both in-house as a CISO, but also consulting as a DFIR practitioner and handling many different ransomware attacks. And it's a little bit like, Mike Tyson, the boxer. He has a famous saying that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's really what going through a ransom attack is like. If you don't have a framework, if you do not have a strategy that's been properly tested, then it will certainly feel like being punched in the face by Mike Tyson. And some of those important components of the strategic framework are, in fact, the aligned to overall cyber risk frameworks. So do you have a risk appetite? Have you properly defined what your risk appetite level is? Some companies, they will have a high tolerance for financial loss. But they may have a zero tolerance for data loss. And in other companies, that may be the reverse. They're less worried about data leakage, but they are very sensitive about any financial impact. So you have to know from the strategic level what are those risk tolerances and risk appetites. The other component of the framework would be the business impact analysis. So do you properly know what are the critical assets? If they are hit by encryption during the ransom, then how does that play into the severity and decision-making? And then aligned to the RTOs and RPOs within that strategic framework, what's your approach to recoverability? Do you have air-gapped data backups that you can recover during the ransom attack. And, not just on paper, but you've actually tested recovery. So pulling all of these components together as part of that strategy in advance and testing it is fundamental.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I have seen myself in a lot of the company, we always have a policy for how to behave or how to act in BCP in ransomware attacks, but usually people don't do it because of other process of delivering features, and also like, hey, you want to grow business, but at the same time you have to take care of how you define your framework and execute it, plan it, even if you haven't never faced ransomware. Now moving further to this, I would like to ask in Paramate. So when we are sitting in board meeting room, and all of a sudden you have to decide between business continuity pressure at the time of ransomware, or you have to think about ethical and legal ways of handling the ransomware. So how do you make the decisions, and what's your experience for that?
I have to say that my experience on this ethical and law is not a lot, because I'm usually working. Actually, I'm fighting against ransomware usually with a smaller company. Okay, so when they attack, most of the time we don't pay because even if we have the even if we didn't prepare for it, a lot of company, a lot of small company give me a call during the night and ask me, hey, we got ransomware, how can we fix this? The first question is the most important thing. I asked, what was the first question you asked in the executive leadership room? What was the first question? If you got ransomware in your company, what's gonna be your first question? When was our last backup? Usually, when was our last backup? If that was the question, I think that is a good sign, because usually people ask, do we have a backup? Instead, right? So I think to answer this question, how can we balance when we got the ransomware? If we have to pay for the organization, like an activist or something like that actually try to get some money to fund some bad activities. How can we wait our preparation for the ransomware and ethical that we risk, right? If we have the insurance, it's gonna be sometimes we don't have to make this decision on ourselves, okay? But if we have to talking about this, it have to wait a lot on how can you have the financial impact on your company and ethic that if you're gonna fund the activists. Yeah.
Great. Maybe I'll ask further question from you. So, what role does cyber resilience and recovery planning play in long term? If you plan it well in your company, how does it pay back in like long term for your organization or any organization, to be frank?
Well, in long term, if you have to plan for the ransomware, you mean?
If you plan ahead, how does this help in long term? Because sometimes people do reactive planning, but if you do proactive planning, how does this pay back in long term?
Well, let's say if you don't plan at all, you maybe have some backup, but then when you face it for the first time, you will feel like, what happened? What is gonna happen to us? Can we recover this? Do we have to pay? How much are they asking for? Right? So first time is gonna be panic. Everyone gonna be panic. IT maybe not so much. They're gonna know that they have backup or not. They have run the test like we discussed earlier. If we already test the backup, because sometimes we do backup daily, but we never try to recover it, to test to recover it. So if we have long-term strategy, long-term plan for the attack, next time that you will face the ransomware, if you don't, well, no matter how much you invest in ransomware, in protection, it is very possible that you're gonna get attacked again, right? But in long run, you're gonna know that you're gonna recover it faster. You're gonna know how much data you can lose. Last time, you maybe lost 1 week of your data because your backup weekly, but you have to learn from it and see that some data must be backup daily or something like that. How long can you lose your data? And that the risk that you will have to assess, so that you will know the long term. It's gonna be better if you learn from the attack every time.
Yeah, maybe if I could just add, if for those of you who have not been involved in a ransom attack, typically what will happen is you are informed that something is happening within your environment. Maybe it's some external threat intelligence, or perhaps you go into the office and a whole bunch of servers or laptops are encrypted and you see the ransom message. So at that point, there's panic. You may start to get notifications externally. If word gets out that a ransom attack is taking place, you could have media, you could have customers, regulators contacting you to find out what's happening. At the same time, as IT professionals, our C-level are demanding answers. The board of directors want to know what's happening. And just at that point, when you think the stress level could not be any more, because it's typically a Friday afternoon when the ransom happens, you then get a follow-up message from the attacker that says, you have 1 week to pay 5 Bitcoin, or we will carry out a major DDoS attack and bring your services offline. So it's a high-stake, high-pressure environment, and you do not want to be making ad hoc decisions in that type of scenario. So preparedness really is key. Companies that invest in scenario planning, in tabletop exercises, and making them very realistic are the companies that will go into a ransom attack and not be second guessing. They will have a clear plan of actions to take, even to points such as if you decide to pay the ransom, let's say it's critical for your organization and you want to pay the 2 Bitcoin. Do you have the capability to do it? Does your organization have 2 Bitcoin that it's holding that you're able to pay the threat actor? Those are some of the decisions that you want to avoid in the heat of the moment, but actually have a plan and preparedness to combat.
Yeah, that's quite proactive preparedness always helps, because my experience with ransomware is like you will get an attack on Friday evening when your whole team is partying in some bar, and then there's an issue happening. And also, if you have a big organization where the decision making has multiple levels, at that time every second counts. So if you are not making a decision faster, you haven't planned a decision when ransomware attack happens, what you're going to do? Then you're going to lose every server in 1 second, because they're going to first scan your environment, then only they will do attack in a fraction of seconds. The faster you make decision, the faster you can take action and avoid bigger impact to your environment. With that, I will move into benefits part of how do we prepare and what are the benefits for it. So maybe, James, this question is for you. What are the biggest benefits organization gain from investing in proactive ransomware preparedness rather than the reactive recovery?
I think it's very aligned to the previous question. Companies that are prepared will have less downtime and faster recovery, because if you're prepared, it means you've done the BIA, the RTOs and RPO of systems, the criticality. Excuse me. So you then invest in protecting those most critical assets. So perhaps the threat actor gets access to your environment, but they do not get access to your most critical assets because they are sufficiently protected or sufficiently air-gapped. In terms of recovery, if you're prepared, maybe you have cyber insurance, maybe you have a digital forensic and incident response company on retainer, so that you're able to quickly call them in your time of need and have those experts come in and help you navigate the complex incident. The other one, which I know in Thailand people maybe neglect, but having a ransomware negotiator is very important in my experience, having dealt with close to 100 ransom cases. Companies in Thailand will often make the statement, "We do not pay ransom," as a headline. But in actual fact, around about 40% of companies that are impacted do pay ransom. You just won't read about it generally in the newspapers. So ransomware negotiators are extremely valuable because they know the threat actor in very detailed level. They know which threat actors will give you the decryption keys. They know which threat actors will come back and attack. So that plays into the negotiation that they perform. And typically the ransomware negotiator will pretend to be a member of your organization when they correspond with the threat actor. And they will say things, 10 Bitcoin, that's beyond our limit. I'll have to go to the board and ask for approval for 5 Bitcoin. And that's going to take me about 1 week. So they buy additional time as well as reducing the claim or the ransom. And that additional time during an attack is really critical because it allows you to bolster your defenses if the threat actor is going to use double extortion attempts. So, launch a DDoS attack or some other attack method. So having a ransomware negotiator on retainer, or even just having them, on your procurement book can be really vital. during an attack. Whether you want to pay ransom or not pay ransom, it still adds a lot of value.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, like the way we should think about both sides of the things. We should make sure how to secure the things, but at the same time plan to discuss with the ransom negotiator, as James mentioned. So you can have multiple way or multiple pathways to tackle at during that time. So maybe I'll go next question to you, Quinn Paramate. How does intelligence sharing and peer collaboration improve an organization's ability to reduce ransomware impact?
Well, that actually help a lot. Well, in real life case, in my company, we use a lot of share file on the share drive. Traditional share drive just on the NAS, and then everyone using this share drive. And that's where we got the ransomware, because it's very easy to be attacked, and we didn't protect it enough, but we have the backup, the totally offline backup, but it's date back 7 days. So we lost 7 days of data on the share drive. But luckily, we kind of separate things. So only share file of the company have impact on this ransomware. So what happened after that? Well, in our company, we actually use 365. So we already have the OneDrive. We can use share documents intelligently, but we didn't. We try to force people to use it. We try to endorse the using of this intelligence sharing, but no, not after the, not before the ransomware attack. People are very enjoy using share drive, and I think if we move to cloud and separate the platform for each task, and then I think this actually help. I think I'm more confident that we're not gonna lose 7 days of data next time.
Yeah, that's the same experience I have. Like peer collaboration really helps a lot, because security is not the job of only security team. Security is job of the whole company as a team, developers, QAs, and your DevOps guys, cloud infrastructure team. So security is job of each and every person, and you rightly got it. Like most of the companies, they get the ransomware attacks are from some shared file sitting somewhere in some drive, and it's the easiest way to put the ransomware into the system. So if your whole team, your subordinates, head of development, head of QA, they are all following the same security guidelines, or at least the principles, even with the pressure of delivering the features to grow the business, that certainly helps a lot. With that, maybe James, I'll try to come back to you. In what ways can cyber insurance support faster operational recovery and financial stability after an attack?
So if you buy cyber insurance, it gives you access to incident response teams immediately. Each of the insurers will have a cyber insurance panel of DFIR companies, some of the best in the region, and they will appoint one of the responders immediately from the panel. And you know, the good thing about most of those responders are they are 24/7, follow the sun. So maybe your ransom attack, it happens in 2 a.m, and the responder can assign their team in the US to immediately work and then hand it over to APAC when we come online. So you get access to the best DFIR. You get access to legal counsel to not only help you with the legal matters of data privacy, ransom payments, and so on, but often the legal counsel will act as a breach coach. So they have a playbook for ransom response, and they will help to guide you during the attack as to what you're doing, what's going to happen next, help play that facilitator role. In certain markets like the US, which is very litigious, I can't say that word, it's very litigation orientated. They have to have client privilege as part of the ransom response, meaning all of the communication needs to be marked as client privilege, confidential, because it could end up in a court case. That's less common in Thailand, but it's worth considering also. And typically the insurance will also have a negotiator on the panel as well. So essentially, with cyber insurance, it's intended to cover business disruption, business interruption. So if you're losing revenue because of the cyber attack, much of that could be claimable through the cyber insurance policy. So that's one important aspect. The recovery aspect. So for example, if your Active Directory has been compromised and you need to rebuild all of the domain controllers, the cost of that rebuild will typically be covered in the insurance policy. And then lastly, on the fines from regulatory fines, legal fines, court case, that will typically be covered under the insurance policy also. So the cyber insurance, helps you manage the cost of the incident. It helps you facilitate through the incident, but of course it doesn't guarantee recovery. That's up to you.
Let's go into specifics. I'll ask some direct questions into what we should do in those scenarios. So, Paramate, question for you is, what key metrics should executives monitor to assess the financial and reputational impact of a ransomware attack?
I think the key metrics here is there are two sides of it. First is the financial thing. The second one is your customer, your reputation, right? The financial things is come to the cost of what you lost if you got the ransomware, and then the business interruption as well. For example, my company is a retail, fashion retails, right? So if let's say POS system is not working, so we cannot sell anything offline. Well, online we still selling it to other channels and other platforms like Shopee, TikTok, right? But offline we don't have any other system. If it's interrupt, how long can your business can be interrupted? Luckily last time we got attacked is during the night time, so we take down all of our IT operation and check one by one, and luckily our POS system didn't and our ERP didn't affect by this attack, right? So the metric that we should measure is in financial terms, it's the cost when you lost your data, how long of the data that you think can be lost. This is the very first thing to think. Even you pay the ransom, you might not get everything back, right? So you can fix it, but maybe it's not in one piece. You might lost some limb, you might lost some files, you might lost some things. How much can you lose? So have to, this is the first one. The second one is, how long can you stop your business? How long can you sell product at shop manually? Go back to use everything manually. Can we do that? And of course, our customer, our reputation. If the customer come to our shop and they cannot pay, they cannot buy, or they already bought it, but you don't have a record of it, how can you fix that? So that's the metric that I think we should consider.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, in retail, you have different problems. Like, if you don't make your system online, your customer tend to get frustrated and they may not come back.
Yes.
Right? So,
and next week is 6/6.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, retail has different problems, but also like banking, BFSI has different problem at the same time. So metrics tend to be similar, even though you are in different environment. Let me come back to you, James, again. What are the most common limitations organization encounter when relying on cyber insurance during ransomware incidents?
As I said before, cyber insurance helps you mitigate the cost. It helps you get access to facilitator resources in terms of DFIR, legal counsel, but it doesn't substitute the preparedness. It doesn't substitute your own crisis management. All of that, must remain internal. You have to have a plan. You have to test it regularly. I cannot emphasize that enough. That's, in my experience in responding to attacks, that was the thing that made the difference. Companies that get out of it without a complete disaster are the ones that do regular tabletop exercises and continually change the scenarios and stress test.
That's good. So, talking about what are the readiness or exercises we should do, Paramate, maybe I'll come back to you. How can organization practically test their ransomware readiness through simulations or tabletop exercises?
First thing, in a non-tech company, people not even aware of ransomware or IT security. They use everything. They use thumb drive. They share file to everyone. So the first thing I think is to have a security awareness training to each and every one of the people in the company, white collar, blue collar. You need to train them all, and then we have to test it. Actually, we test to send some like very suspicious email to our employee, pretending to be myself. Actually, myself pretending to be myself, and then see if after the training, see if they are actually aware that they shouldn't click on that bait that I send to them, and we assess and we retrain again, and that is the user side awareness of this kind of security and this kind of ransomware is I think is the first thing that people have to understand. Sometimes the employee understand, but executive doesn't have to understand what is it. And IT have to make sure, just like we discussed earlier, we do backup. How long ago did we back up? Have you ever tested that this backup actually works? Many companies, they just back up. And what is the saddest thing? The backup very regularly. Still, they got ransomware and lost everything. Why? Because the backup in the online system. I mean, they have a server and they have a storage, and then they back up it on another hard drive that is hooked on the network. So what's the point of backup to the online? If you have backup, make sure that it is physically unplugged. Not every company have tapes to back up, right? Sometimes you just back up from hard drive to hard drive. But make sure that that backup hard drive is actually disconnected to everything, disconnected to the network, disconnected to the power if you have to. Okay? So, and make sure that that backup actually you have to try to recover from that backup from time to time to check if that is the good way to back it up. So, yeah. 2, employee have to be trained and test. IT have to be aware and test themselves. And then we have to always review the data. I said this many times. How long can we lose the data? Each department have different criticality of the data, right? So you have to know that this data lost 3 days is fine. We can make it, we can create it again. But if it's critical, if it's daily, you have to back up it, make sure that everyone understands the same thing.
Yeah, I think mock drills are quite important, and we have seen this in last year when there was an earthquake in Bangkok, and the drill was like whenever there's an earthquake, you should sit below your table. But when I come out of the table after earthquake, I saw everyone was downstairs. So that's the problem when you don't do like often mock drills. So when there is a ransomware attack, you tend to do things against it. You tend to follow the human behavior, try to take decisions from emotions, not from intelligence. So drills are very important in these scenarios as well. With that, I think I'll go into maybe a last question for today, for James. What immediate actions should executive leadership take within 24 hours of ransomware incident?
So the first thing is to contain the incident as much as possible from spreading. So, if you find that a number of laptops, workstations have been encrypted, then pull them from the network. Don't shut them off, because you need to preserve the forensic information, but get them off the network so that the encryption cannot spread further. In the same token, you may have to consider isolating parts of the network or taking certain services offline temporarily. If you're perhaps going into the weekend and you're facing a ransom attack, maybe in the banking sector, you might be able to do some data center maintenance over that weekend and take certain services offline if they're not critical and prevent them from being compromised. The second thing I would say is contact the insurer and stand up the incident response and crisis management team. So very important to, if you do have insurance, notify them early, because if you do not, then it may impact your ability to claim. And then, of course, they will appoint the incident response firm to help you. If you have an IR retainer directly with the incident response team, then invoke the IR. Contact legal. Make sure that legal are involved from the very beginning, either internal legal or external. If it's suspected to be a data breach, then it's very important that legal are involved, that your data protection officer is involved. And you know, what I would say, if you're a CISO, do not declare a data breach as a CISO, because there's been a few cases in the US where the CISO had to go to court or even go to jail because they claimed a data breach, and maybe they did it too late. Claiming a data breach is not the role of the CISO. It should be the data privacy officer or legal and compliance. Ensuring chain of custody. So, you know, any of the forensic information related to the attack, you need to preserve, and you need to preserve it in a way that could be admissible in the court. So having proper chain of custody on, you know, encrypted laptops, any forensic artifacts. And then secure communications. So, you know, you may assume that some of your communication channels have also been compromised. Maybe they got in through email, and you cannot guarantee that your email communications in response to the attack are secure. The threat actor may be monitoring those comms. So you might want to stand up an out-of-band communication group where you can discuss more securely. The last thing I will say is, with ransomware, we're entering a very scary prospect with AI and tools like Mythos, because what it means is potentially, if they get into the hands of threat actors, they will be able to carry out ransom attacks at super lightning speeds. They will be able to compromise Active Directory very quickly. You know, typically it would take 5 days. With Mythos, they could probably do it in 12 minutes. So if these AI capabilities get into the hands of threat actors, then we're going to see a large volume of ransomware cases, a lot of incident coming out, and the incident response and insurance market will be inundated, and will make it very difficult to get those resources. So it's we're entering into interesting times with these platforms.
Thanks, James. I think these takeaways really would help our audience to help us to plan things in advance, because we can be secure as much as we want to. We can be very good at our security, but we have to fail once to get a ransomware. So we should be planning for the disaster as well, to have proper BCPs, disaster recoveries, proper backups, proper planning for insurance. How do you act during the incident of this kind of cyber attacks? So with this, I would like to conclude this session. And thanks everyone for listening to us. And it was a very nice discussion, James and Paramate. Thanks for your views. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sachin, for moderating such a great panel. So may I request